Welcome to the WorldWire Update. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon for more updates and thrilling short scenes. In 2025, President Trump's return to the White House brought a seismic shift in global trade policy, sending shockwaves through international markets and diplomatic circles. His administration wasted no time in rolling out a bold new agenda, determined to reshape America's economic relationships with the rest of the world. Central to this agenda was the introduction of sweeping Liberation Day tariffs, a set of aggressive trade barriers that upended decades of globalization. These tariffs were designed to make imported goods more expensive, with the stated goal of encouraging American consumers and businesses to buy domestically. These hefty taxes targeted dozens of countries, from close allies to major rivals, aiming to protect American industries and force jobs back home. The administration argued that these measures would revive U.S. manufacturing, create new opportunities for American workers, and restore national pride. After a short, fruitless negotiation pause, tariffs resumed mid-July, rattling international businesses and governments. Many foreign leaders scrambled to respond, holding emergency meetings and warning of retaliation. Trump also threatened extra tariffs on countries siding with BRICS, sending a stark message: align with the U.S. or face consequences. This move heightened tensions with emerging economies and deepened divisions among global powers. On July 4th, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was signed into law, slashing government spending across multiple sectors. The bill was celebrated by supporters as a return to fiscal discipline and American independence. It also gave major tax breaks to corporations, doubling down on economic nationalism and promising to make the U.S. the most attractive place in the world to do business. Wall Street cheered, but critics warned of growing inequality and corporate influence. The world watched as America built not just a physical border, but an economic wall, pushing traditional partners to seek new alliances. Countries began to look elsewhere for trade and investment, accelerating a shift in global power dynamics. Global supply chains were disrupted overnight, with costs soaring for companies reliant on imports from China and India. Factories slowed or halted production, and consumers faced shortages and higher prices on everyday goods. Instead of economic liberation, these policies triggered global instability and the looming threat of a full-scale trade war. The world braced for the uncertain consequences of America's new path. Once close allies, the U.S. and India now face growing tension. What was once hailed as a partnership built on shared democratic values and economic interests is now being tested by a series of disagreements and policy shifts. The optimism that marked their relationship just a few years ago has given way to suspicion and frustration on both sides. As Trump's tariffs hit Indian exports hard, Indian businesses found themselves struggling to compete in the American market. The sudden imposition of trade barriers disrupted established supply chains and left Indian exporters scrambling to find alternative buyers. Indian goods, from steel to textiles, suddenly became too expensive for American buyers. Factories slowed production, workers faced layoffs, and the economic pain rippled through entire communities dependent on trade with the U.S. The threat of further penalties for BRICS participation challenged India's cherished strategic autonomy. India, proud of its independent foreign policy, now found itself under pressure to align more closely with Washington's interests. Forced to choose sides, India bristled at Washington's ultimatum, seeing it as an attack on its independence. Public opinion in India hardened, with many viewing the U.S. demands as heavy-handed and disrespectful. Experts warn the U.S. risks losing a vital partner by prioritizing short-term trade wins over long-term strategic ties. They argue that alienating India could have serious consequences for America's influence in Asia and its ability to counterbalance rising powers. India, doubting America's reliability, is now actively seeking new partners in Asia and beyond. New trade agreements and diplomatic overtures signal a shift in India's foreign policy as it looks to diversify its alliances and reduce dependence on any single country. The trust built over decades is eroding, and the U.S.-India relationship is cooling fast. What was once a symbol of growing global cooperation now stands at a crossroads, with both nations reassessing their priorities and expectations. This shift opens the door for other powers to expand their influence in the region, as India looks elsewhere for support. the balance of power in Asia may be set for a dramatic transformation. The Trump administration's crackdown isn't just on goods, it's on people too. In recent years, the US has made it increasingly difficult for foreign professionals, especially those from India, to pursue opportunities in America. The message is clear. The path to the American dream is no longer as open as it once was. A staggering $100,000 fee for each new H-1B visa has made it nearly impossible for most companies to hire Indian tech talent. This steep cost is forcing many businesses to rethink their hiring strategies, and it's not just about the money. There's more paperwork, more scrutiny, and longer wait times than ever before. Even big tech firms are reconsidering, and smaller businesses are locked out entirely. Startups and mid-sized companies, which once relied on skilled Indian workers to drive innovation, now find themselves unable to compete for global talent. The result is a chilling effect on entrepreneurship and growth. Indian students, once eager for a US education, now face tougher, pricier visa hurdles and a less welcoming climate. Many are reconsidering their plans, worried about their future prospects, and the uncertainty of staying in America after graduation. Canada, Australia, and Europe are seeing a surge in Indian applicants as America's doors close. These countries are rolling out the red carpet, offering friendlier policies and clearer pathways to permanent residency, making them far more attractive to ambitious students and professionals. This reversal of the brain drain is a long-term loss for US innovation and soft power. As talented minds choose other destinations, America risks falling behind in the global race for ideas, research, and entrepreneurship. Generations of Indian immigrants once built bridges between the two nations. Their contributions shaped Silicon Valley, academia, and American culture, creating lasting bonds and mutual respect. Now, those connections are fraying, and America's influence is waning. The sense of opportunity and welcome that once defined the US is fading, replaced by barriers and uncertainty. The golden door for global talent is closing fast, and with it, America's reputation as the land of opportunity is at risk of becoming just a memory. Under US pressure, India is warming to China despite a history of rivalry. Both nations, hit by American tariffs, now share a common challenge and are exploring regional cooperation. In September 2025, Modi's summit with Xi in Tianjin signaled a deliberate reset. The two leaders pledged to counter US protectionism by expanding trade and investment. BRICS summits laid the groundwork for alternative payment systems and infrastructure funding, aiming to reduce reliance on the US dollar. India and China are now discussing lowering trade barriers, boosting investment, and collaborating on technology. For India, it's access to China's market. For China, it's influence across Asia. While mistrust lingers, the urgency to respond to US policies is driving this new partnership. Despite diplomatic gestures, deep India-China tensions persist. Their disputed Himalayan border remains a flashpoint, with military standoffs ongoing. India's trade deficit with China and limited market access fuel economic frustration. Many in India fear new deals may worsen this imbalance, favoring China. China's close alliance with Pakistan is a major strategic concern for India, complicating any partnership. Experts urge caution. India must protect its interests, not just react to US pressure. Cooperation with China is necessary for now, but India's long-term security and sovereignty remain at stake. India and China's growing cooperation, spurred by US trade policies, could reshape global power. Together, they represent nearly 3 billion people, and a formidable economic force. Russia, facing its own Western sanctions, is a natural partner, forming a strategic triangle across Eurasia. This bloc could set its own trade rules, financial systems, and tech standards, challenging the Western-led order. Global issues would require this bloc's buy-in, reducing the dominance of institutions like the G7 and World Bank. A shift away from the US dollar could accelerate, weakening America's financial leverage. The world is moving from US dominance to a multipolar era, with new centers of influence. The result, a more complex, unpredictable global landscape. The world stands at a crossroads, with new alliances and rivalries reshaping the future. Trump's protectionism has pushed India and China closer, possibly drawing in Russia and creating a powerful Eastern bloc. The next era may be defined by fierce competition between this bloc and the West. The US must decide, repair relationships and rebuild trust, or double down and risk a new Cold War. Countries worldwide may soon be forced to pick sides, raising the risk of instability and conflict. The choices made in Washington, Beijing, and New Delhi will set the course for decades. Will leaders choose confrontation or cooperation? The path forward is uncertain, but the stakes for the global order have never been higher.